Welcome to Aim in Practice, where we talk about life as a practitioner, wellness in general, and what it means to practice. I'm your host, Jess Reynolds, and today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with Debbie. Debbie is a phenomenal conversationalist, and in this episode we talk about her mission to educate others about this company that she's been working for that's been around for a little over a century and has never once advertised. We discuss about how this company checks all the boxes of what's wrong in the wellness industry, and in particular, in the insurance industry. Debbie's alternative approach to building relationships with her clients is what really helps her succeed. And of course, we talk about insurance. I would have never thought that talking about insurance could actually be interesting, but I was really surprised. This is in fact a very interesting episode where we get a fresh perspective on how important different types of insurance is. With that being said, let's jump in. Debbie, thanks for joining me. We'll start like I always like to start. I'm always curious to understand what got a person into the wellness industry, particularly, of course, with yourself, massage. So tell me a bit of your backstory. Did you do anything before massage, or were you one of those people who are at like 14, you're like, I know what I want to do. I want to rub oil on people.
Right.
So what's your story? What got you into this industry?
Well, thanks for having me, Jess. I actually started out wanting to be a physiotherapist, but didn't want to travel for school. So I took all the courses, what I could in college, and then realized very quickly I didn't want to go to the States or Edmonton. So that kiboshed that. And then I looked for other avenues. So I looked at massage and what else? Becoming a paramedic as well. And that at that time you had to, yeah. Anyways, it just ended up being massage was the best fit for me at the time. So my mom was like, hey, there's a new school that's opened in Calgary. Why don't you check it out? And that's kind of what happened. And
Cool.
That was about, I was 21. It's been a while.
So you've been in the biz for a while. I mean, longer than 4 years. You're far above average, right?
Yeah.
So what's kept you in this industry?
I love learning. I love teaching and just helping people. I know that's probably what most massage therapists say or most people say, but I really do like them walking out with, feeling better, or, I've helped them fix something, or they can move better. So that's really what I really enjoyed about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You say everybody does say that, and I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I send a survey out to every new student, and I'd say about half of them, maybe a bit less, fill it out. So I've got a lot of responses so far. And one of the questions is, what do you enjoy most about what you do? And at first I left it as an open-ended question, just type it, but literally everybody typed the exact same thing. I like helping people. Oh, it's the best part of your job when people get off the table and they feel really good, right? And that's certainly the case. But I'm always curious, like, is there something below that, or like, what about that is it that you like? I know it's a tricky question, but I find when there's such a common answer to a question, there's usually something else under there. So, like. What else is there when you say you really like that look that people have or helping people? Well, why?
That's a good question. If I go back to why I just loved everything about the body and how good, how interesting and bizarre at times and unique it can be. So that's why I kind of went down that road. But to say in terms of why do I want to help people, I don't know. I don't know that there is an answer for me. But yeah, it just seems that everyone's like, I want to help people. I like helping people. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Okay, then maybe another question is, there's a million ways to help people, right? Like,
right.
What is it about massage that you feel is the best way to help people?
You're asking me really hard questions, Jess. It's just about how unique everybody is. So just because, somebody has bicipital tendinosis doesn't mean that I can treat it the same way as somebody else who has the same, right? So just learning and figuring that out and it's kind of like a puzzle.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Just trying to determine what is going to be best for that specific person. I know we have the basis, but, then you add all these other things and kind of make it your own. So,
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I had to dig on that one because
right?
you get the same answer enough times. You're like, there's got to be something.
There's got to be more.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it is that well, why massage for helping people when you could help people by, like a carpenter, technically they help people. And ultimately everybody in the service industry, they're helping. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Well, it certainly makes sense about why massage. So you were 21, you wanted to do physio. And you decided you didn't want to leave to do physio, so you got into massage instead. And you jumped into it. Now, when we talk about your career as a massage therapist, have you ever thought about doing something else? I mean, in the first, I'm going to say half of your career, did you know, like, yes, I'm still happy with this. This is what I want to do. Or was there any point in which you wanted to try something else?
So I actually, about 10 years in, I ended up having babies. So that is what gave me a bit of a break. Then realizing that not too long after that, I wanted to go back. I did miss it. So not always did I now, after, 20 some years in the business, now I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can do that anymore. But definitely not really in the beginning. It was still something that I really enjoyed doing and kind of knew that that's what I always wanted to go back to.
Yeah. And I mean, you taught too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What got you into teaching?
I knew that massage as a career, typically, like when I went to school, they said 8 to 10 years max. So for anyone to get any more than that was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing, right? So I kind of knew that eventually I would be practicing less, and I wanted to stay in the industry. So that's kind of why I decided to try the teaching angle.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And then recently now you've shifted in, you're doing other things. Oh, wait, are you still doing massage?
I'm not.
You're not? Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Actually, when March of 2021, I tore the ulnar collateral ligament in my thumb.
Oh, get out.
They actually said to me, I've never seen anything like this. What the heck did you do? I had a hole right in the middle of the ligament.
How?
Just from overuse. So, I was I was there for almost 2 hours, and everyone was in looking at my ultrasound. And it was kind of one of those moments like, okay, I really did a number to myself. Right. So I actually haven't practiced since then.
Okay. So the main injury got you out of practicing, which makes sense. Super common to have an injury get people out of the biz. I mean, thumb injuries, my experience has been shoulder injuries are the number one, weirdly enough, even though we're constantly harping about not using thumbs. But I see more massage therapists with shoulder injuries. And then after that, we go to thumbs and then wrists, right? But nevertheless, injury is one of the most common reasons people either have to take a sabbatical or extended leave, or they flat out quit, right? So is that what kind of got you interested in this new line of work that you're doing, which I would like to hear all about, right? So you're now shifting more into insurance.
Right.
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
very
definitely
weird.
Different than massage.
Right. And people ask me all the time, why is it that you went from massage to insurance, completely different industries? But the company that I'm working with is so amazing in how they treat they're just doing everything differently. So I knew that as soon as I saw what they were doing and how they run their business and their business plan and how they treat their clients and how they treat their employees and contractors, I was like, I need to get involved. And then it was like, I wish I would have known about it when I was earlier in my career, first starting out, because it is so different. So that kind of happened right around when COVID happened. I was going to do massage part-time and then the insurance part-time. And it wasn't really working that well, partially because of COVID and the lockdowns and all of that, but also because I realized that my heart wasn't in it anymore. I didn't want to do the physical work of it. But I plugged through, tried for about 8 months, and then my injury happened. So the universe was like, you know what? You're done. You don't like what you're doing anymore. We're going to force you out and do other things. So, that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's for the best, right? I'm curious how many people are in this industry still because they feel like they should, or they don't want to re-educate, or for whatever not good reason. How many people have fallen out of love? Another big question I have, and I think about this often, is how many people were never actually in love with it in the first place? They just went to it because they heard that ad on the radio. You know, we know the one,
right?
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that you had that intuitive sense that you're kind of getting to the end of your career, and then the universe was like, yeah, okay, we're going to make sure you listen. I mean, that's pretty cool. And obviously you did listen.
I did, yeah.
So you got into insurance before you injured yourself. Now, Did you know about the company that you're working for? What's the name of the company?
Combined.
So did you know about Combined before you injured yourself?
Yes. So I was a policyholder at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I was able to use it as well.
Okay. So, I mean, you've got like firsthand experience of how beneficial it is as a practitioner to have insurance.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you all sorts of questions about this because I vaguely understand the process of the type of insurance that you are working with, right? Like, of course, as wellness practitioners, we're all familiar with errors and omission insurance and malpractice insurance. Right. And we're probably even familiar with general liability or the insurance in case somebody slips and falls, right? So we're familiar with these. And then on the other hand, we're also very familiar with working with insurance companies, extended health insurance companies. Our clients come in, they've got benefits for massage. So, we've got like these two clumps. We've got the insurance that we have to hold as professionals, and then we've got the insurance companies that we as professionals deal with that our clients hold, right? So there are these two. Now, obviously, we're talking more about the sphere of insurance that an individual holds for their own health.
Right.
But then there's also some overlap because it's like you should have this as a professional, right? So we're kind of in this middle area. Yeah.
That nobody likes to pay for and do. And
nobody likes it.
No.
Brianna and I, we just sat down and we're like, should we get health insurance, dentist? And we're like, this is no. And nothing about this process is enjoyable. No. So we just put it off. And then 3 months later, we're like, should we do that again? Where did we leave that off? And it's like, right. We left it off by saying this sucks. So let's not do it.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an interesting and challenging area to be in. So let's start with, in that area, what's like, I'm a practitioner and I come to you and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, Debbie. What do you mean insurance? Why do I need insurance? What do I need it for? So let's start with that one. What do I as a practitioner need insurance for?
So a lot of times what I find and what I've actually had to do is work through injuries or work while you're sick. I mean, I remember being so nauseous in one treatment that I was like leaning over massaging and it's like, you can't do that. But I was a single mom and I had to work because I couldn't afford to take the time off. Or, you're working through injuries. It was either my shoulder or headaches. And you just kind of plug through because you can't afford to take the time off. So really that's the gap that we're trying to get rid of is if you get hurt or sick as self-contract or subcontractors and self-employed people, you don't typically have anything like that. And if you do, you're looking at $350, $500 a month, and nobody can afford or wants to spend that on insurance.
No, and the math I always work out is like I don't get sick that often, and I take care of my body, so I don't get injured that often. And let's say simply saying it's $300, like that's a relatively minimal insurance plan, right? So I'm paying $300 a month for myself. I mean, by the time I actually get sick and need to use that, I could have just put that into a savings account and then ended up being able to pay myself anyways, right? So that's sort of the mental game I always play is, even with dental, it's like, if I just put the money into a separate account, when I need to go to the dentist, I'll have the money there and probably some left over, right? So how do you deal with that argument of...
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple things when people say that, because it's considered self-funding, right? So I say, okay, think of two things. How many times can you use your savings account if you need to?
Yeah. Okay. Well, once.
Exactly.
Maybe
so
twice,
once it's depleted, it's depleted, and it's taken you how long to get there? With insurance, you can actually use it over and over and over and over and over. Now, hopefully you won't have to, but it's just, that's one thing to think about. The other thing is, when you never think that you're going to get hurt or sick, but it only takes one time, right? A lot of people take care of a lot of people, but they still end up with cancer, or they slip on ice and break their patella. I just had a massage therapist actually break her patella she slipped and went down right on her knee. So, so she hasn't been able to work for the last 2 months. So she's happy to have this coverage because you just don't know when that's going to happen.
I mean, they call them an accident for a reason, right?
Exactly, right? Or you're getting cancer, or, we've had lots of people that, I never get sick. And then 3 months later, they're diagnosed with cancer. And they're like, and once it's gone too far, you don't qualify anymore.
Right,
so
right.
it's always cancer. Cancer's always better. No, insurance is always better when you don't have anything, you're relatively healthy, and when you're young.
So like based on that, and I kind of cut you off on the train of thought because you're saying, it's oftentimes $300 to $500, right? And is it a similar thing? I mean, I'm not expecting you to give an exact price because, of course, every case I'm sure is different, right?
Different, yeah.
But how do you overcome that obstacle? Because a lot of people are very much turned off by the price.
So what is fantastic, and again, what the company does differently, is we can work within your budget. So we specifically customize a plan that fits you. So what may work for you, Jess, may not work for Brianne, may not work for me, may not work for the next person. So you can make it individual based on budget, what you have or don't have. So it's really different in that case. So even if you have other insurance and there's a bit of an overlap, combined pays over and above because there is no coordination of benefits. So it's just some of the things that they're doing a little bit differently to get pretty great coverage.
Yeah. So that means if I come to you and I'm like, okay, I got $100 a month, like that's my budget. That's what I've got. And I say, that's where I'm at. And then we have a conversation and you say like, okay, you will hear the things that we could do. We could do this for 100, or we could do this for 100, or this for 100. And I go, I want B. And then we set that up, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that sounds ridiculously simple.
That's how it is.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So within that, I mean, there's obvious reasons why a person will want to be covered. Does it cover things differently between, say, I go out to the mountains and I slip and fall versus I've torn the ligament in my thumb? Like, is it two different types of coverage, or how does that work?
Good question. So we do have accident injury coverage. So traumatic event happens and you get injured, or that is covered. That's our external or accident injury coverage. And then we have the sickness or internal coverage, which will cover pretty much anything other than a cold. So COVID, flu, big ones, cancer, heart attack, stroke, but also will cover things like repetitive overuse, carpal tunnel, tendonitis, arthritis, all of that it will cover as well.
Okay. And are there plans? So it sounds like there's plans for individuals, because I'm sure most people you're dealing with are sole proprietors, right?
Yes.
Within that, are there family plans as well? So like, say I come, and I mean, it doesn't work for Brianna and I because, we're those horrible dinks, dual income, no kids. We're those people, right? But let's say you work with somebody who is a mother and who has a significant other and a couple kids. Significant other doesn't have insurance, they got a couple kids. So do you do sort of those family plans as well?
We can do family plans. And another bonus is they offer discounts. So we often joke, the more kids you have, the bigger the discount. Sounds very salesy, but it's so true. Yeah. I mean, if you have a family of 4 or a family of 10, you're still paying the same.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing is, it sounds salesy. That's a tricky thing, right? Like, I can only imagine. I mean, I've known you for a while, right? Yeah. You're not a salesy person.
No, I'm not.
Right? Like, I couldn't imagine when I first heard you in insurance. I'm like, sure, career transition and that type of insurance makes sense, but
what?
But Debbie, she's not pushy.
No.
She doesn't talk over people. So how do you deal with that as this like warm-hearted, loving, empathetic massage therapist that you are, moving into an industry that's typically known for the salesperson mentality? How do you sell?
So I think of it in a couple ways. I'm not you're right, bang on. I'm not a hard, pushy salesperson. And if that's how I had to be, I would never do it.
Right.
So what I really am hoping to do is just educate. So let people know that this exists. This company has been around for 101 years.
Whoa.
And nobody knows about it because they've never advertised and they never will. So what they've always used is word of mouth, and they've gone door knocking, which I don't do. If I had to do it, I wouldn't be doing this. But that's that's basically all I'm trying to do, is just let people know it exists. Now, once I can get in front of people, you make your decision. So I think everybody needs it, but it may not be right timing for you. So I'm not going to push you and then have you cancel. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to continue to follow up and build that relationship with you. And then when it's ready, or when you get an accident, I should have spoke with Debbie. Or you may know people that need to see it, right? Could benefit from seeing it. So that's kind of the angle that I'm taking, in the fact that, once you see it, it's kind of a no-brainer, because it checks all of the boxes of everything that's wrong with the industry. We do completely opposite. So it's just a matter of now letting people know that it exists. And that's kind of where I have more problem with that. And that's getting easier. But that is typically what I'm having the most trouble with, if you want to say, as opposed to even selling per se.
Yeah, and it's so challenging, because like that's what we all have to do. I mean, even as wellness practitioners, if you're working in somebody else's clinic, it's a different story, kind of. Right. But ultimately, we still have to sell, right? Like we have to sell ourselves. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it? We got to sell ourselves, but we do.
It's true.
Like somebody leaves, or they finish the massage, and what's the script we're supposed to say? Okay, let's rebook you. And so many people feel uncomfortable with that, right? But and I think that's a big issue within the wellness industry, and what leads to a lack of success is this idea of selling is bad, or to be a salesperson equals this. I don't want to be that person, right? So when I hear you describing this process of how you go about sales, what I find so fascinating is that's the way it has to be done now more than ever. Yeah. Like with the world being the way the world is, people's BS meter is like so sensitive. Yes. Like they can sense BS. And same with authenticity. It's like you see an ad on Facebook and you're like, this is, ugh. Yeah. So it actually might lean in your favor, being an authentic, caring, kind person who's like, I don't want to sell you anything. I really don't. But what I do want to do is tell you about this thing that genuinely changed my life. Right? Yeah. I think that approach is great.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had people say that all the time. Well, I don't want to sell myself. And I'm like, well, you're a massage therapist. You have to sell yourself. Just exactly what you said, right? It's like, if you want your business to thrive, you have to tell people to come back. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to be successful.
You said something in there that I think really matters as well when you were talking about why you feel okay doing this, is because you believe in it. Yes. And I wonder how many people don't in our industry. Like I know a lot of the time when people book for certain types of acupuncture, and they're booking in for the acupuncture that I don't practice. It's like this pure energy thing, like move my chi and do this, and I'm like, this isn't my jam, right? Like I don't really believe in it. And they're like, when should I rebook again? I'm like, don't. You probably shouldn't, because it's not my thing. But then if somebody else comes in and they come to see me for depression or anxiety or the things that I find I enjoy the most, it's like, when should I rebook again? I don't have a problem. It's like, I really want to see you next week. And in my mind, it's like, I'm going to get paid for this, but I'm so interested in seeing the outcome of this process because I believe in its capacity so much. It doesn't feel like sales. And I think there's a big difference between, and if there are any chiros listening, I'm sorry, but I call it the chiro model, right? Because that's just kind of baked right into the model. I want to see you every single week from now until the end of your life, right? Like we've all got this sense of this, do I really need to? Versus when somebody's like, I want to see you because I really think we're going to do something, right? It's that belief, I think. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think if you tell them why too, I always used to tell students, when you're asking them to come back, let them know why. Mm-hmm. So say, it's just like going to a gym. If you go to a gym, you can't expect results if you go once a month. Mm. Now, massage, you can go once a month and get results, but it's just people understand that way of thinking. It's like you have to do things a little bit more, especially in the beginning, however that looks depending on the situation, right? Mm-hmm. But as long as I did that, it was very easy for me to rebook. But I find that a lot of people just don't like to do that. It's just uncomfortable. But it's that whole, oh my gosh, sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there are so many cool ways to do it too, like let's use this insurance model. We all know what it's like to pay insurance, right? You could do monthly installments, you could do annual installments. There's a bunch of different ways. So let's imagine that's a very tried and true model. Or the gym membership. We all know what it's like. You can pay your gym membership annually or monthly.
Yeah.
So these things that people do recurrently, they're based on these membership models. And I find it fascinating how few wellness practitioners have a subscription-based program. So maybe they're just for the sake of simple math, we say like a monthly or a massage is $100. But maybe if you book a subscription, then automatically I'm going to charge you $80 a month, and we're going to book you in once a month. Like that's an easy way, I think, to get recurrent treatments, people coming in, and you don't have to resell every time, because it's just like going to the gym. It's like, when are you coming back? They don't even think about the fact, of course I'm coming back, right?
Yeah, I've already paid into a subscription. That's kind of how it might, but Massage Heights and Massage Addict and all of those, I think, have really given that whole aspect a bad name, right? So I think maybe that's why people don't want to do that, because they're like, well, I'm not a massage addict and I'm not, do you know what I mean? It was very pushy, and
you got a good point.
Right. And so I can say that because I used to work in a Massage Heights for a while. So the model itself is brilliant, but it just, because of the negative connotations that come with the therapists and the pushiness of it, I think it's just not something people want to do just because of that. But yeah, I do think it's brilliant. It will get people back in.
If you can do it without being salesy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you think you're approaching mastery in the non-salesy sales?
I wouldn't say mastery, but it definitely is something that, I find it's what I focus on. If I focus on, oh my gosh, I need that, get that sale, I need to get that sale, it doesn't happen. So if I just am out there and I'm like, you know what, if I need to just talk to 10 people a week and just let them know that this exists, then the rest falls into place. So it's all about perspective too. And I just find that as the more that I'm doing this, because I'm coming up to 3 years, I just find that it's becoming easier to just have that perspective. And then just the universe just kind of, here you go, right? Because it's not about that. And it also means I don't come across that way. Yeah. Right? So I think it's just easier. So I don't know if I'd say master, but it's getting easier.
There's this book by Bob Berg, and I can't remember the other name. They've got this series of books, and the books are called the Go-Giver series. And I've heard of them. Yeah, they're so good. Like a complete game changer. After I read, it's called The Go-Giver. After I read book 1, Go-Giver, I completely shifted my entire business. Like I 100% changed direction, because the thesis of this book series is, and it's all business books, but they're written in a narrative style, which is super cool. But the whole thesis of the book is, if what you're trying to do is sell, you're never going to sell. If what you're trying to do is give information, give knowledge, give whatever you can, exactly, that's when things start to come your way. And the original title of the book was actually called It's Not About You. And as a salesperson, that's the most important thing, is it's not about you. I think the same thing as a massage therapist. I mean, we know it's not about us, but we're humans, so everything's about us, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
That darn ego.
Yeah, totally. But when you're rebooking a person, if there's that, I'm rebooking this person because I want to make an extra $100, you're making it about you, versus I want to rebook this person because I really think I can help them. And I really feel like there's value, and I want to give them value. Like, they're going to come and they'll give me $100, but I'm going to give them $500 worth of awesome in that. I'm being maybe exaggerative, right?
Of course. But yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm learning as well, is the more value that you give, you said it, the more value that you give to people, however that looks, the more you're going to get. Yeah. So my world has changed in the last 2.5 years since I've been doing this, because I used to be that person. It was all about me, and why aren't they? And now it's just about giving and doing what I can to I don't know, lack of better word, serve, whatever manner that is.
Yeah, and it matters. I mean, like even what I'm doing now, because of course the majority of my time is spent with AIM making courses. And when I first started making courses, it's like, here's what I could teach, and I could teach it because I've taught it. But now when I create a course, it's like, how can I make this course the best learning experience possible? What else can I add? So when a person takes this course, they've got everything they need plus 10 times more than they can need. And it's not a sales trick. It's like I really want there to be as much value in as possible. If this course is 5 hours, I want every one of those hours to be not a waste of their time, to be something that they would be worth paying 10 times as much, or they'd be willing to pay 10 times as much. And Brianna and I talk about this a lot within the massage world. Is I think that's also missing in our industry. Because of whatever reason. I mean, there's probably a million of them, but Brianne's currently doing this experiment where she's going to a different massage therapist throughout the city every month, and she's really varying the type of therapist that she goes to.
Interesting.
Just to learn,
Yeah,
right? To try and make her practice better. Realizing that, like, the massage, of course, needs to be good, but really the value a person receives within that time, that's what makes somebody rebook. Regardless of the price, that's why a person can charge $150.
Exactly.
Because within that time, it's such a valuable experience, right? So with that said, what do you think? I mean, you've been practicing massage for what, 20 some years, right?
Yeah.
What do you think makes a massage valuable, that experience, like the best possible?
Well, it's all about listening, right? And not only listening with your ears, but listening with your hands, right? Or your forearms or whatever it is that you're using. But I also think that just letting go, just doing what, I don't know. And maybe some people don't have this, but for me, it was just kind of like, I just let my hands and do what they were told to do. Right. It sounds hokey and I don't know if it does, but it just, I couldn't even think about it. Sometimes I couldn't even explain what I was doing. I just did it. Yeah. So I think I've lost track.
Well, like
Jess.
whenever I ask that question to virtually everybody I talk to, right? Some iteration of that question, because and for the people who are listening, they're probably getting tired of me asking this question, but it's a very selfish question because I am genuinely interested in what makes a practitioner successful, what makes the experience of a receiver as best as possible, because I want to help people create that. I really want to provide that as something you can learn, right? So your answer is perfect, and it's right in line with what most people are saying. So if I'm clear, what you're saying is, first off, is you listen. You really listen. So you're listening with your hands, and that part I get, and I'm sure many people get as well, being kinesthetic and being this hands-on job that we have. But what other forms of listening do you mean?
So you're asking them questions and asking them detailed questions, not just, so what hurts today? Okay, your shoulder, great. Like actually get in and actually do some testing and get to the root of it. Because if you're not, then you're just being generic. You're not really going to help. I mean, it's going to help, but it's not going to really help.
Yeah.
I also think that and this sounds kind of weird, but customer service. You have to treat the person on the table like you would like to be treated. So I think that that's a huge thing as well, is to just treat them like it's you on the table. How would you want your hour or 90 minutes or whatever it is be from beginning to end, and just do that and emulate that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable. I used to say that when you're receiving a massage, pay attention to what you're receiving, because the person giving the massage is giving you the massage they want to receive.
Exactly.
And we all do that, right? Like we all give the massage that we want to receive. And for me, when I've got somebody on the table and I find a spot, it's like, if I'm on the table and somebody found that spot on me, I've actually got that spot. And here's what I want done to that spot, right?
Right.
But what also I hear you saying in there is like when you are doing that, it requires a lot of just you being you, like doing your style. And the beauty of that is you attract the client that fits your style.
Exactly.
People who change their approach and they're like, I got a bit of a beef with the techniques that are being sold. It's like we collect 1 million of them. You know, we've got like a cabinet of 200 techniques. And it's great because you can kind of combine them. And if you combine them into your style, that's even better. But the practitioners who are like, I'm going to do this technique for this person and this technique for this person, I personally don't believe it's as valuable as doing your iteration of all of these techniques, right? Your thing. And then you attract the clients you want. There's nothing worse than being somebody who just, all you want to do is relaxation. And you get people come in and they're like, deep tissue, all the way.
Right.
You know, bring the pain, right? So, yeah, I think it speaks.
Or the opposite even, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to do relaxation. Or you...
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's always the opposite of what you want, but it's not about you.
No.
Right.
Exactly. Well, you know what? And it's not about you. But then there's also got to be the some part that kind of is, right? Because like what happens if you hate doing deep tissue or you hate doing relaxation? It really drives you nuts.
Yes.
And you keep attracting or you keep agreeing to doing these types of treatments that you don't want to. Then I think, and as I'm speaking, I'm like, well, then ultimately it still is about the client, because if you really don't like doing deep tissue, they're not going to get a good treatment. Right?
Exactly. They're not going to like it either, right? So, but yeah, that's so true. It is about you, but sometimes it's just like a job. You don't like to do everything that you like. Every job is going to have something you're not going to like to do, and you know, it could get boring too if you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Over and over. So, what
part of the job did you not like?
Towards the end, it just felt like it was same thing, different body part, same or like different person, right?
Yeah.
So it just was. It wasn't a puzzle anymore. Because I had treated and I'm not bragging by any stretch of the means. It's just, I have a lot of experience. So it just wasn't figuring out that, because I had already done it, or I've already treated it. Sorry. And so I was like, okay, well, that works. And yeah, you could tweak it because it's not necessarily going to work the same, but it just wasn't giving me that. So that's actually why I ended up going back to doing my manual osteopathic therapy, because I was like, that's going to give me another avenue. But that happened during COVID. So it's kind of difficult doing some of the techniques or learning the techniques via Zoom. But that's kind of what happened with me, is it just became redundant.
Yeah. And I think that's great. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they say previously, I can't remember the exact statistics, so I'm sure somebody will correct me on this, but once upon a time, and I believe it was the 60s, the average person would have 3 careers in their life. And then by the early 2000s, it was 7. And who knows what it's up to now. I mean, I'm in my I'm sure. Yeah, like I probably had I'm already above 7, I'm pretty sure. And I don't plan on stopping anytime soon, because and it's part of my personality too. Once I've grasped a concept sufficiently enough that it doesn't present an overwhelming challenge, and I need that. If it's not an overwhelming challenge, I'm bored. So as soon as I'm over the hill of overwhelming, it's like,
I'm done.
On to something else. I need to do something else. It's going to, drive me crazy. Yeah.
But that's what's so great, is you can take what you've done in the past and morph it into something completely different and unique, and take your skills and I think that's fantastic. And
I don't think anything's a waste. I found it so interesting having taught massage and acupuncture, and I'm always curious about what brought somebody to the point where they wanted to learn how to do this weird thing that we do, right? I mean, sure, it's not weird, but it kind of is.
Rub bodies.
Yeah, exactly. If you rub bodies, you're going to stick needles in people. Like this is a strange thing. Or you're just like a yoga teacher. Why do you want to tell people how to stretch? Like, so I mean, when we put it in a logical way like that, it's kind of strange. But I'm always curious what got people into it, and you get people from all walks of life. I mean, myself, I was a tradesman through and through.
Right.
And the skills, and I find this so interesting, because no matter if somebody was a tradesman or they were doing serving or they were a flight attendant, it doesn't matter. Everybody's like, but I learned a lot from that job that has helped me in this one. So I don't think anything's a waste, right?
No, it's not. You might not want to have taken it, but you're going to take a piece. There's a reason why you were led to do that. You had some kind of learning, and so that you can take that to your next career or even just benefit your life. I really truly think that we need to always be evolving, and that's part of it. Right?
Yeah. And now more than ever. I mean, maybe in the 60s there wasn't a choice. You did the thing you did because there wasn't more options. But now with the infinite world of options. And then simultaneously, I think, and I kind of loosely use the word mastery, but proficiency might be a better one. I think proficiency is important, and regardless of the speed in which one is capable of learning, I truly believe until you've hit year 4 of doing something, you're still very much in the learning phase. And I do find that unfortunate within massage therapy because so many people quit before year 4 that they haven't actually hit the point of proficiency, let alone mastery.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, really when the magic starts to happen. When you're no longer thinking, when you're no longer caring about the new techniques, when you're doing what you said, you're just letting your hands do what they do. But that takes time. You know, you might have the touch and the natural inclination right from day one, but it's not until you've had your hands on a lot of people and you've put in a lot of hours that you do gain that. So again, it's that balancing. It's like you need the time to become proficient or master at it. However, moving on to something else, once you have hit that, that's also a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. Or just tapping out because you don't like it. Mm-hmm. That's fine too. Yeah. I kind of wish more people would do that.
Tap out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just because there's a lot of therapists out there that just, I mean, if I didn't come into this, I'd probably still be massaging because I was able to work around my kids' schedules and I was able to make a decent living and, you know, all of that, that's really flexible. But did I enjoy it? No. Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, you're right. I wish people would, you know, kind of just leave, but it's scary to leave.
It takes so much courage.
It does, especially if you're going into something completely different, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, now what?
Yeah, I always look back and I had Eric on, I think it was episode 3 or something like that, one of my first guests, and I talked to him because he and I, we've been best friends for an eternity, right? And we basically went through school together. He was a year behind me. So he practiced acupuncture for almost 10 years, and then he quit, and now he's doing tech. Like, I don't even understand what he does, but he's sitting in a just wired, who knows? He's doing tech things, right? All hardware, techie stuff. And the courage to do that, right? He's got a wife, he's got a kid, he's got a mortgage, to leave a job which he was familiar at. It was easy to go do something completely different. Like, I still often think the amount of courage that took was huge. So no wonder more people don't. And I'd be curious how many people in any industry, but of course ours,
especially, yeah.
Yeah, some part of them, maybe a big part of them wants out, but they don't know what to do. So when you were transitioning then, on that note, is like, did the transition seem pretty natural? Because of course you're still kind of in the healthcare world, right? So when you transition from massage to doing insurance, how did that feel? What was that like?
It was scary, which is why I never ever thought, when I first started, I just wanted to make an extra $1,000 a month. That would help fund my place in Hawaii. But it just kind of morphed into something different. And, you know, again, the universe had something different for me. And yeah, it was really scary. It was, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And with any business, as you could probably, there's ups and downs, and the ups are great, but there's also the downs, and you have to learn how to persevere those downs, because that's really where you're going to become successful, right? Step out of your comfort zone. So you have to be willing to do that. If you're not, it's not going to happen for you. Yeah. You're going to quit, or you're going to leave, or whatever. So it takes a certain person to do that as well.
It does.
We also have to trust that it's in your best interest, which again is, I sounding really hokey. I don't know. I don't know if you believe that, but
I do for sure.
Good. Yeah. Because I truly think that you need to become who you were meant to be, and you can't do that without getting uncomfortable and doing things that, you know, that's why 95% of people are working 9 to 5 and they're never going to be rich. Not that that's what everybody needs to be, but it's just kind of one of those things you have to ask, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you, right? And so
I'm preparing for this really cool workshop that I'm going to be facilitating, or not the sole facilitator, but co-facilitating, and it's for wellness center owners, right? So it's a super cool retreat, and it's all just wellness center owners, and the topic I was asked to do was just self-development, and it's like, just like, what does that mean even, right? Because it's kind of my thing, right? Like, it's my biggest passion, my hobby, my everything. And as I was going through it, I'm like, well, what would be, if I could teach a wellness center owner, now these are practitioners who own clinics or whatever it be, right? If I could teach them one thing, what would it be? And what kept coming to mind over and over again was what you were just talking about. It's like, well, what do you really, really want to do? And as such, I've reread the book that changed my life, like took me from being a tradesperson to what I'm doing. And that's The Alchemist. I'm not sure if you've ever read it.
I haven't read that, no.
By far favorite book. Probably read it 50 times. So I'm going through it again.
I have to go get it.
Yeah, and for the first time ever, I'm reading it line by line, and I'm writing notes on every single line of this book because I really want to use it as like the cornerstone. And it's come up so many times for me in the last several weeks about how important it is to really think back to the core you. Like, do you really in your core, is this what you feel like you're meant to be doing? Now, I think it's important to acknowledge that for some people, there isn't an answer for that. And that's not a bad thing. No. It's not. It's actually normal. I think it's very normal for the 9-to-5-er. It's like, hey, I do human resources for an oil field company downtown. And great. Because that gives you the time and money to do the things that really cost you, like travel, right? But then there's the other person who has that voice in them that's like, your vocation needs to be your life and your life is off track. So I think a lot of people in the wellness industry got into it because maybe there was an inkling of a voice that said, you need to help people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But this isn't maybe the ideal way to help people. Or maybe it is, right? But nevertheless, listening to that voice it's hard.
It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you question it too, because you're like, well, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Because, right? And then you second guess. And so it's difficult.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's so many reasons why it might not be the thing. And, I'm going down this because like, I like the hokey stuff. I love it. Like
Good.
I dwell in that realm, so I'll sit down. It's like, should I, is this really, is teaching continuing education for massage therapists and acupuncturists, is that my sole purpose? Is that what I was put on this planet to do? And the answer is no, it's not. And I'm familiar with that. But what I do know is this is in the direction.
Yes.
This is a key era of my life where if I go in it with everything I am confident. That little voice inside of me is like, this isn't it, but this is on the way to it. So you got to do this all in, right?
Yeah, you have to, it's just like trying to jump, right? You can't jump. You have to go through because there's something that you learned and you're phenomenal at it, by the way, there was things that you learned. You learned what to teach. And I mean, who knows what that lands, but look at you now. You're super successful doing this. But you needed to teach and needed to do that before you figured out this. And this may not be the end, but it's
the next step.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a valuable thing for all practitioners too, is to tune in. And for some of them that I've met, it's like, no, this is it. I love it. For the people who are like, I am meant to be doing this. Awesome. But for other people, it's like maybe going to massage school is a very important step, but it's not it. But the only way to find that is to tune in, to listen to that voice and really ask that question, like, is this it? And if the answer is no, maybe, kind of, just tune into it.
Yeah. And even if it's not sure, it's not right. Because if it was right, you'd know. You wouldn't be not sure, right? So even if there's just that 1% that you're, I don't think so. It's not the right path, but it's definitely helping you get where you want to go or where you should be going.
Yeah, yeah. But again, courage. It's a scary thing.
It is.
Yeah, yeah.
It is.
I didn't see our conversation going that way, but it was lovely.
So good.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, I suppose we'll kind of tie it back in because I think I've got all of my questions answered about insurance. Is there anything else that you feel like that I should know or somebody who's listening should know about insurance as a wellness practitioner?
Just keep an open mind. They're not all out to get you, right? And really, just you don't know what you don't know. So just go and learn, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. At least you know, right? And it may not be for you right now, but it could be for you a year from now. There's a reason, but you don't know until you don't. Yeah. Right?
I mean, I didn't until I heard what you were doing. I had no idea that somebody could get insurance as a massage therapist that would cover their hands. I had no idea that was a thing. I thought it should be a thing, but didn't know. So hopefully a lot more people who are listening now know that it's an option. You can get insurance for when you're sick or when you're injured, and it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. It could cost as much as one treatment per month, right?
Exactly. And it's usable. So that's the other key is people don't want to spend the money and then have to jump through a million hoops to actually get a claim. It is so easy, so straightforward, and I'm there to walk them through, or the person that signs them up is there to walk them through that claims process and all of that. So it doesn't have to be complicated. We're trying to make it easy. So that's a good thing too, right?
So how can people get a hold of you?
So I'm on Instagram, just Debbie A. Shearer that's my handle, I guess. I was going to say at Gmail. I also have a website. It's just debbieshearer.com.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
And we'll put all that in the show notes.
Yeah. And you can call me or text me as well, which I think is...
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure that we've got your contact information for anybody to get a hold of you and ask you questions about this interesting world.
Right?
Cool.
So interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much. That was a lovely conversation. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jess. I appreciate this. This was really good.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
Great.